For the third option, it is simply a test of the Marshall-Lerner conditions. So you will understand that from the slides. And I've used here the United States. If we look at the end result first, it is that the elasticity of exports plus the elasticity of imports should be greater than 1. And as you can see, it is pretty variable when it is measured on a month-by-month basis. Now, we might argue that it shouldn't be measured monthly, that's too short, but that's an issue we might comment on. But here I've got it as months. So how do we get there? Well, elasticity is the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price. And we make sure it's negative. We make sure that positive means that it's elastic. For that, we need our quantity measure, so we need export volume of goods, and the UK has that, the United States has it, Germany, and some other countries in the EU. So if you go along here, you'll find some countries do, and a lot of countries don't have this data. Right, well, you can get data from another country, or you can use this data if you want. So export volume of goods, import volume of goods, export prices, import prices. We can work out our export elasticity. And if we just click on here, we see that it is our C4, our export volume, divided by our export price. So when the price goes down, we would expect our export volume to go up. Notice that I've put in the little negative sign here to turn an elasticity, a positive elasticity, into a positive figure, because it's the downward sloping demand curve is negative. So clearly, if there's a great increase in quantity when there's a change in price, we want that to be a positive figure, when in fact, if the price falls, negative movement, the quantity will go up, positive movement. So the ratio would be negative unless we correct it for it and put a little negative in there to turn it into positive. So that's just a minor detail, but an important one, otherwise all the results won't mean much. And you do the same for imports, right? When the price of imports goes up, we would expect the volume to go down. So again, a negative relationship. So again, we correct for that by putting in a minus. Okay, so we have our elasticity of exports and our elasticity of imports. We add up the two and we can see that it is pretty variable. We would expect them to be greater than 1. What I've done here is I have taken the column of figures here and pasted them as values and then sorted them into low and high. And I've taken out the top, the 10 smallest figures and the 10 largest figures, simply because it makes it easier to put into a histogram. If we've got extreme values up here and down here, it means this gets all squashed up. So it is really just a presentational issue. I've also, to get around a little problem with Excel, I've changed this. I don't know what it was originally. It's something like 11.8 something. I've changed it to 12. So I've made a minus change there so that the axis starts at minus 12. So I made that slight change there. And then this is a histogram of all these values. As you can see, it is goes up in a kind of normal type distribution. and 0 to 1 is this bucket, and 1 to 2 is this bucket here, and you can see that there are many fewer greater than 1 and a lot more negative 1, which is suggesting that on the whole, if there's a devaluation, then the current account balance is likely to get worse. In other words, the quantity of exports may go up, but not by enough, and the quantity of imports may go down, but again, not by enough. So it is relatively inelastic. Whether it's, the problem is due mainly to exports or imports is a refinement that we don't go into here. But clearly, I mean, it could be that one is generally elastic and the other is generally inelastic, and that data is kind of here. But we're not. I've not gone into this, but we've noted that generally the Marshall-Lerner conditions are such that the elasticity for the United States over the period tested is not sufficiently elastic to make devaluation result in an improvement in the balance of payments. Okay, so that's our option 3, relatively straightforward so long as you understand the Marshall-Lerner conditions. Okay, so that's that. That's that one, and you then need to write it up and explain it to our DEF Economic Consultants Limited. So that completes our option 3.